This has turned into a mess. A complete mess. I forget to mention things. I got interrupted. This happened, that happened. This is why I really need to start putting like. So all I had to do was just end the video because I was 12 minutes into the first video. All I had to end, oh, that's the first real cut. All I had to do was just end it. And then I go do what I had to do, come back, film again. And then my lazy ass does not want to find a way how to splice two videos into one. All I do is my cousin, like, he has an Android phone, and he was able to do it pretty easily. Because I had forgotten to mention something. It's not laziness, it's just more like I don't know how to do it. And I don't want to find out how to do it, because I will admit, probably never going to end my videos. Never. I would never end my videos, because I need an actual fan base that sticks around. Now, I'm going to say this one, as I said many times before, I understand most of you guys don't stay around. And you guys, like, you'll go to Very Gary Comics, and then you'll go to Comic Tom, and you'll come back to me. And as at the very least, a lot of you guys have subscribed to like 1,000 people. I understand that most of you guys aren't gonna stick around for every single video and comment every single video. I understand that. But it'd be nice if they had some people, like, at least like 5 people that would stick around for every video, at least every other video, most of the videos. Again, I understand that I'm not blaming you guys. I'm blaming more like YouTube not recommending other people my videos and they might check them out. But or the same people, because I feel like a lot of people drop off. I feel like a lot of people like will comment my video and it'll drop off and it won't be like it'll take a random person. Like they're not on my Instagram. No, they're not part of that community on Instagram. All right, but let's get on to it. So I'm gonna actually so the first two up are mixed. This one more so than the other one. That is Civil War 2. Now, the pros about this book is that it's at least different from the first Civil War. It did not feel like a cash grab because, oh, Captain America Civil War movie is coming out, so let's cash in and come out with another Civil War book. It didn't feel like a cash grab. It was, obviously, but it didn't feel like it. It felt like it was a story they wanted to tell, and it just so happened that the Captain America Civil War movie is coming out. So, I might lose my train of thought. The pro is that, again, it's different enough. It's even like saying like, oh, it's a Minority Report ripoff. Yeah, you could make that argument, but there's a lot of books that are similar to other movies too. And this one, I have not seen Minority Report yet, but I don't know. I just feel like it's not too similar. I mean, again, you can make that argument for a lot of books that a lot of people like. But this one, it was interesting too. It was a very fast paced book. It was never boring. I was never too bored with this book. A couple of times here and there where the dialogue was too heavy, but not too much. There's only a few instances where that felt that way. I'm losing my train of thought. I'm stuttering. I wish I could fix my stutter, but I can't. My stutter is like trying to fix a scratch movie disc. It's gonna skip no matter what. So you guys gotta deal with it, you know. I didn't mean like that. I meant like for I don't know. But anyways, this was in the bad was just kind of like it wasn't too interesting at times. I felt like it was a bit uninspired. But like I don't know if uninspired is the right word to describe it. It was just I felt like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. It's hard to explain what I didn't like about this book. Maybe pretty much what Comic Pop didn't like about this book and everyone else didn't like about this book. It was the same for me. But like I can excuse like the downsides, like, oh, Tony Stark was written terribly, because it was still interesting and so I was still interested in it. But I think it was because I had known, even though I had been a very long time, and this is the longest time it's been since for a reread of a book I was interested in rereading. It took so damn long for them to actually get the book. It was weird because I said, "Oh no, we don't have it." And I was like, "No, I got it for you before, so why don't you have it?" I was like, "Oh, no, we don't." And then a year later, they're like, "Oh, we do. Here you go." It was weird. So I had forgotten a lot of what happened in this book, but even then, even still, I think it was a lot of. I know what the big moments that happened. Most of the big moments I remembered, so there was no real surprises at all. Next up, we got Defenders, which is just boring. But it was Bendis, so it was interesting in certain points. But I can't recommend this book at all. I was more mixed because I hesitate to say this is a bad book, like as bad as the ones that are coming up. but it was just regular bad. Of course, now I get a text. Alright, I'll answer that one. See, that one is just a response to what I said before. It's not, oh, grocery list, go take a picture of it because I forgot about it. I don't think at this point it's that they forget, it's they know that I'm home to take a picture of it. It's just like, I don't know. Alright, next up is home. The only upside I can give to this book is that it was never boring. But this book is absolutely insulting. It's one of those books where all the white characters are written to be over-exaggerated so they can get a message across. And it's the most blatant the message comic book I've read in a long time. I do not recommend this book whatsoever. Not even as it's a nice palate cleanser because it's a pretty fast-paced book. So every issue only takes like what, 10 minutes to read, 10 to 15 minutes to read. Half time it usually takes me to read. Sometimes it was a bit more, but most of the time it was half time. But no, I can't recommend this book at all. Neither with this one. This one was boring. This one was just super, super boring. And there's a character in this book that looks a hell of a lot like Black Widow. Where's a good place? I guess this isn't the worst one. But if you showed me a panel from this book with this I don't remember any of the characters' names. If you showed me that book with that character that looks like Black Widow, I would say, oh, it's the Black Widow one, Nathan Edmondson. And you would say, nope, it's Infinite Horizon. I would be none the wiser. Like, you could put that, like, you could say, oh, new Black Widow, here's a new page to the new Black Widow series I'm on. Even Edmondson do that as an April Fool's joke, and I would be fooled. Because he drew her so similarly to the way he draws Black Widow. And it is like a like, too. It's like a whole lot like, too, to me, at least. This is boring. Kerry Duggan's worst book that I've read, at least. On the Stump was pretty good. I mean, it was definitely a lot. The pro, it's the pro for, again, there was no pros for Infinite Horizon, but the pro for this book was that it was, sometimes it was interesting. Sometimes it wasn't like super boring. It was kind of like, yeah, I was a little bit bored, but I wasn't like completely bored. Wanted to end the book right away. There was a couple times, but I got more interesting as it went along. But I still can't really recommend this book. And now we go on to the book that I can't technically review because I didn't finish it. But I gave up on King City. I will never pick up another Brendan Graham book. Not even Prophet, maybe Prophet. But this book was terrible. Juvenile humor at its worst. You could make juvenile humor work for me. Only Place is a great example. But here, it's just dialed up to 11, and it's just boring. Like, how do you make a futuristic world boring? And how do you make a book that took me, like, at the least 5 minutes to read each chapter until I gave up, of course. 5 minutes to read each chapter. How can you make that? I can make 5 minutes for like 5 hours, and 10 minutes for like 10 hours. I was going to try and read this all in one sitting and like just finish it once and for all, but I couldn't. I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. I give up. The worst I've read, that's honestly the worst I've read. Because even Home, like, at least Home was short, sweet, and to the point. Well, not to the point, it wasn't sweet. At least it was short. You know, at least it flowed, it was at a faster pace than this book. This book was just boring, and, like, I think it's manga, honestly. But even then, there's more manga books I can recommend than that. Because it was technically a manga. Now on to the good. Starting with Lore Olympus. I love this series. I read this all in one sitting. This thick book all in one sitting. And it didn't feel like it was this thick. It was like, what, 300 pages? I feel like it was 150. This is a very, very good book. I highly recommend this book. It is a young adult book, so it's not going to be as, like, graphic or, it's going to feel like what it is. That is the only downside I can give to this book, is that it does feel like the target demographic, it feels like it's exactly that type of book. But only in the way that it feels, not in the way that they have, like, you know, certain characters now. It's just the way, the theme, the atmosphere. Next up is, so to speak, next up is Wonder Woman by Brian Azzarello. This is one of those books that I cannot understand why people don't like this book. This is absolutely one of the best runs of comics in general, and one of my favorite one of my favorite Brian Azzarello books. This is the reason why I like Brian Azzarello so much. I honestly, it's a lot of these books. When I'm doing a volume 2, especially for the series I'm rereading, there's not a whole lot more I can say. It's a good book. Check it out. Next up is Batgirl, and this is the last Gail Simone book before we get into the Brendan Fletcher series run, which I hated, but I did put the Cameron Stewart technically. And you'll see it tomorrow or whenever I go. Hopefully tomorrow, tonight or tomorrow. Hopefully tonight would be nice, but hopefully at least today or tomorrow. I would. This is the last, so you'll be seeing the Cameron Stewart run. I want to get back on the Batgirl Birds of Prey one, because I remember liking that one a lot, except like a couple of things. There's like a couple of things I didn't like about it, but that kind of stood out. But I kind of feel like I should read the Cameron Stewart run beforehand. And I want to get back on the Hope Larson series too, because I completely forget how I even felt with the Hope Larson Batgirl. I feel like I liked it enough because I was trying to find Volume 4 or Volume 3, but I couldn't find it. And I hope that this time will be a lot luckier, hopefully. But this is the last of Gail Simone's run. I highly recommend you get the omnibus. That's how much I like this book, is that I recommend you get the omnibus. It's all in one for the Gail Simone book, and it's for Gail Simone run, and it's not too expensive. It shouldn't be too expensive, especially you guys shop at in-stock trades or cheap graphic novels. This is an insanely good run. I know it's, it did the character disservice by taking away her wheelchair, but again, this is New 52. Just think of this as a different interpretation of Batgirl. Like I said before, there's no way that you read every single Oracle book, even if that's all you have in your collection, or not all you have, but even if you have all the Oracle issues of Batgirl not Batgirl, but that she appears as Oracle in, even if you have all those issues, there's no way you remember each and every book. No one is that good, so just read those again. If you I don't understand why people hate this run just because it took away her wheelchair, and now she's back to being Batgirl. Yeah, it's a little like, it feels like a bit convoluted how she was able to move how she was able to gain use of her legs again, but I don't care. It's a good run. I'm able to excuse that because I got a good run of Batgirl instead in place of it. I don't know how I can say that. Next up is DMZ. It's still kind of, it's a good book. I do like it, but again, I could tell why I was almost gave up on the series. It's very heavy-handed with the dialogue. The dialogue is a lot of narration, a lot of I put back to it. A lot of narration, but not so much so as was in the previous volume. But this one, I want to at least see how this all ends. I'm still interested in the story enough to continue with it. But if my library doesn't have, say, volume 8, I'm gonna give up. I'm gonna read another Brian Wood series. Next up is Sandman, which is still pretty good, but starting to get that sense of, oh yeah, that's why I didn't like Sandman. Because the first 3 volumes were absolutely amazing. And this one was less so. Slightly less so. Slightly. And that's because of how much I like the first 3 volumes. The first 3 volumes was finally starting to understand people like this series so much. Next up is Hellblazer, the book I just finished. And this is incredible. I love this run. Garth Ennis' run is my favorite so far. And the Heartland at the end is 50 pages. It felt like it's 35 pages. It definitely felt longer than the average 26-page book, but only slightly. That's how good this run is. And yeah, there's a lot of dialogue sometimes. I feel like this had more dialogue per issue than did Preacher, and it was definitely a lot like, I felt myself a lot like it was a lot slower than it was with Preacher. Preacher is a lot more fast-paced, a lot more interesting, and it takes you for a ride and never lets up. And for this one, I feel like they took a few more stops than they did for Preacher. Like 2 or 3 stops more than Preacher. And again, Preacher is just, I hold Preacher on such a high totem that no book written by Garth Ennis at least has topped that yet. I mean, honestly, no book has really taught that in general. I think I still do believe that Preacher is my favorite comic of all time. And of course, my favorite Garth Ennis book. The whole reason why I like Garth Ennis so much is because of Preacher, honestly. Next up is Guardians of the Galaxy, and it does. I am starting to understand. I was starting to understand here more than anything why they don't like Brian Michael Bendis. There's a lot of that like kind of MCU type humor where they're like a lot of like quips and that back and forth. And they're like that kind of back and forth where you can't. And a lot of the other characters are written. A lot of the dialogue is like you can't tell what character it was written. It was by you could change the dialogue around and make it like if someone was referring to Fury Quill, you just have them refer to Kitty Pryde, you know, and I wouldn't be able to tell the difference, but that's a small price to pay. That's what I should have said. The background book. That's the phrase I was trying to look for. That's a small price to pay for a pretty fast-paced and interesting story. But I was trying to say that back and forth. It's hard to explain. But it's a lot like what they do with the MCU, where there'll be like a lot of joking around, like quipping kind of thing, and then like it's hard. It's not just quipping. It's very hard to explain. But you'd have to read the book to find out. Honestly, it's again hard to explain. So let's move on. Eat the Rich. Reminded me a lot of Get Out. It was kind of like a lot of like that. Like I don't want to say like social issues, but it was a lot like that kind of like. They will introduce something, the character will say something, or the character will do something, and you won't realize it, and be like, oh, yeah, because they did that because of this. And you realize after, once you realize the big twist, it's like, oh, that's why they did that. They did that for more than just the reason then that you would know. Because, like say the character, I'm not going to spoil it, but say the character drops a fork, and the character's like, oh, clumsy me. Like, oh, the person's clumsy. That's their character trait. When you realize they dropped a fork because they need to like talk to talk under the table with the other character. Again, that's not what happens in the book. I'm just giving an example. I don't think I needed to though. What the fall. Next up is Cable and Deadpool Volume 4. Unlike with Sandman, I still cannot really I still can't see what I didn't like about this book. Kind of I can. I definitely it's not with Low by Rick Remender where I'm like, oh my god, I was such an idiot. Well, I did not like this book the first few times I read it. This one, like with Sandman, I've read so many times and tried to get into it, I could never get into it. Now I am, and I still can't see why I didn't like it. I can kind of see, but less so with Sandman. Like this book, I would actually like. This one was every time it showed up, I was like, yeah, like Cable Deadpool. When Sandman showed up, I was like, oh yeah, Sandman. You know. Return of the Living Deadpool. This is how you do a sequel. This is very interesting, more so than the first one. It was better than the first in every way, shape, and form. If you even kind of like the first Deadpool Zombie Night Living Deadpool book, you'll love this one. I will. I bet. Ultimate Adventures Volume 2. Never reviewed Volume 1 because I always had Volume 1, but I like the series. I like Mark Millar. Mark Millar is is an overhated writer for me. In my opinion. I feel like a lot of people hate him for no real reason. Like they'll like this writer for this reason, but they won't like Mark Millar for this reason, for the same reason they like this guy. And yeah, I can make the argument that I like Brian Michael Bendis for the same reasons I hate Silver Age. Brian Michael Bendis has a lot of dialogue, so is Silver Age. But Bendis, it feels like there's a point to it. Silver Age, it seems like there's not. Silver Age is like, oh, Spider-Man shoots his webbing and hits target, head on, you know. It's kind of like Silver Age had a lot of that kind of dialogue. Yeah, not dialogue, but like words, you know, like they always explain what was going on in the artwork. Bendis doesn't do that with his. He has a lot of dialogue. It's more just, and sometimes it's exposition, but you know. All right, next one up is Magneto by Cullen Bunn. Such a damn good run. Just as good as I remember. Just as good as I remember it being. And it's another one, actually, there's another one like with Civil War 2, where it was a long time between me rereading it because I didn't have it. But this time they said it did. Yeah, it's really weird how that happens. Star Wars is next. Time is 113. I'm like stupid stitching it's number 13. I don't know if anyone else is that way, but I see the time is 113. I have to check it again when it's at 114. And I do it twice. I'm really weird like that. I can't buy 13 books. If I buy 13 books, I might just take one out and make it 12. Or look up and then make it 14. Alright, continuing on with this. Star Wars Volume 3. Really good run. It's now I do not want to check out the Dark Horse run because I heard the Dark Horse run is a lot more darker, a lot like more violent too. Because they didn't have comics codes, they need to go they make it go like the R-rated PG-13, PG-13, maybe even R-rated Star Wars. But this one is still like really good. It's rated T. It's not T plus, so it's more like it isn't as like violent as a T plus book would be even for Marvel. But that's a small. I don't know. I even mention that. But it's their T14 is PG. But this is a really interesting run. I really like this run, along with Darth Vader by Kieran Gillen. These 2 Star Wars books, if you're skeptical to get back into, if you're skeptical to get into the modern Marvel Star Wars books, start with Star Wars by Jason Aaron and Darth Vader by Kieran Gillen. You can't go wrong with it. At the very least, you can't go wrong with Darth Vader by Kieran Gillen. Yeah, 2014. I'm going to check it twice now. Alright, over here. Daredevil Reborn. Really good. It was... I would say, though, the one downside I had with this book, one small downside I had, was that, it doesn't seem very, like, you can probably skip this book if you're doing a reading order of Daredevil. Because it definitely does go in order. It definitely do, mention things that happen in the Bendis run. But you could probably skip this book. But I wouldn't say to do it. It's only 4 issues, so why skip it? It was very interesting, and it had a very good story, and it was Andy Diggle at his best. Andy Diggle crime, he's almost just as good as Ed Brubaker. I don't think he's trying to be like Ed Brubaker. I think he's trying to be his own kind of person. Like if you like Ed Brubaker's crime and you've read every single book that Ed Brubaker's done, check out Andy Diggle, or just check out Andy Diggle's writing in general. So I have not read anything by Diggle that I haven't liked. I can think of anyways. Graffiti's Wall. It was pretty good. It got better. It got a lot better as it went along. The first 2 issues were a little bit like, yeah, it wasn't too bad. Then they made up for it by making the last few issues amazing. It's an incredible book. I highly recommend it. And I finally have a Ron V book I can say I actually liked. Bitter Roots, Volume 2. Just as good as the first one. But I don't know if I mentioned this with the first one, but I can't keep the character straight. And it's a lot... I think this book goes a bit too fast sometimes. I wish I would slow down a bit, but honestly, at this point, I don't care. I only have one more volume to go. Might as well just do it. This is a book I've actually thought of buying the whole series myself. I may not get that book. It's $60. Even that's too much for me. They have all 3 volumes by Interloan Library, so I can just get them there. But I might just buy all 3 volumes myself. And it was also written by Chuck Brown too. He co-writes this along with David F. Walker, and Brown did the On the Stump. And if I was gonna get this, I'd always get On the Stump. I wouldn't care because even though I didn't like On the Stump too much, I would still buy it just to be completist for Chuck Brown / David F. Walker. I Love Trouble was pretty good. I mean, I have no idea what happened in the book, but it's unique, very unique book. In its artists and its artwork and the way that it tells the story, I can at least give it that. But I would say it was like more mixed maybe. But even then, I hesitate to say I was mixed about it with it. Sleepless, a really good book. It's a reread, but still really good. Check this out. It's only 2 issues, only 2 volumes. It's worth paying for it. Worth paying for it? It's worth paying for it. I don't know why it sounded weird. And finally, The Few. This is the alternate of Brendan Graham. From now on, I am picking up everything Sean Lewis. That's how much I love this book. Like with Cullen Bunn, it's probably the new Cullen Bunn. Where with Cullen Bunn, I like everything I've read by him, so I pick up everything I can from him that the library doesn't have. From Image, I'll start with Image for Cullen Bunn and with Sean Lewis, but I'll be occupied for a long time. This book, each issue, because it's a pretty thick book for only collecting 6 issues, each issue was 51 pages. It felt like a normal 25-page or 23-page book. That's how good this book was. That's how fast paced this was. A lot of, it wasn't a whole lot of dialogue, but it was just very good. It was the inverse. That's what I was looking for. That, as I say, is that. I hope that I get to the library tonight or tomorrow. But that's it. 25 minutes.